We are live. What's up? What's up?
Live. Okay.
Wednesday. It is Wednesday night, about to be 7 o'clock. And we're about to talk Nets. Summer League ends. Kristian Winfield has joined us. We'll let some people get into the chat. I see our guy, Luis, always rocking with us early. Notification gang, Noti Squad.
What up, Luis?
And we'll get some more Nets Twitter folks in. Let me retweet it as well.
Let's see. I think y'all said y'all was tagging me in it.
Yeah, it should be tagged.
Got it. Yup. All right.
Here we go. Oh, snap. Look at that. It's me.
All right.
Cool. Good to go. What's going on with y'all?
Not much, bro. Just trying to get you on the pod. Like I said, I was like, yo, it's a big episode. There's a lot to talk about. We need your takes.
Listen, man, today was a long day. It's crazy. I put some prayers in the air for my mom. She's battling COVID right now, which is
Sorry
crazy.
to hear
She's out in Phoenix right now, and out there it's mask whenever you want to wear it. And she's one of those who's, you can be around a lot of different people and never know when you have it, and then you go get tested and boom, and then she started getting symptoms, and it was crazy. So thankfully she's doing well now. I'm ready to talk some summer league. What's going on?
Just regular stuff. I'm making sure, bro. I'm double checking because I'm looking at Zencastr now and I'm not seeing your wavelengths coming through as you're talking. So
I think I muted myself on Zencastr. I think I'm good now, right?
Okay, now you're good.
Yeah, that's me.
There we go.
I pressed the mute button next to me on Zencastr, so we should be good now.
All right, cool. I think we're good. Yeah, I have a little bit of an echo, but I think we're good.
I think muting the tab, like you said, definitely helped me. I don't see anything over there.
Yeah, that just means no, you're not going to hear anything from him. I think you should be good. Like your levels are still going to come through.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then we're rocking. All right, so I'm gonna do the intro and count us in. I see Jared in the chat. What up? I can't read the writing is small. Who is that? Kenwin. What up, Kenwin? All right, counting us in now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Talkin Nets, episode 120. Summer League ends. And we've got a special guest today. Kristian Winfield joins us to talk Nets.
Yo.
Cam Thomas.
What up?
Talk about, KD and Draymond. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. The vaccination policy in the Barclays Center. Steve Clifford. Kyle Korver. A bunch of stuff happened between our last episode last Tuesday and now. And we're going to get into it. Talking Nets. Let's get it. And then our intro music plays, and then I come back and I say, yes, sir, welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 120. I don't even think we've had 12 guests total. I was talking to Hudson. I'm like, we're at episode 120. We haven't even had 12 guests. We don't even have 10% guests, which is cool because that means we've built a little bit of a audience, the TN fam, people that come through to hear Hudson and I talk about the Nets, talk NBA, talk basketball, but we're fanalysts, not analysts, aka we're just fans of this. And today we're bringing in a guy that's a little more than a fan. If you look him up, you check his credentials, he's a writer, he's a reporter. He can speak to this stuff a little more than we can, and that's what we'd like to do, tap into his expertise today. So without further ado, let's introduce our guy, Kristian Winfield, Nets Twitter. You already know, New York Daily News, soon to be the uninterrupted. Kristian, say what's up, bro.
What's going on? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate y'all.
Of course. I think I first heard you on the Fireside Nets podcast with Spen and Nick, and I was like, yo, we got to get Kristian on Talkin Nets. Shout out to Spen and Nick, Fireside Nets podcast. Check them out. But yeah, this guy is one of the guys you see on Nets Twitter every day. Whether it's Nets talk, NBA talk, whatever's going on. He also does a little food, Chris and chips.
Listen, I have my food ready right here. Stop playing. I got some. I went for a run today, and I'm trying to eat a little healthier. You know what I'm saying? I got to burn these pandemic pounds off. I just got a little salmon salad over there. I'm gonna bust that down when we finish.
I feel bad. I'm holding you up from your dinner.
Nah, bro.
We're stopping you from getting to the meal, to the eats, but
nah, we good to go.
We'll get to it. We'll get right to it. Also with us, as always, the young Jedi, Hudson Flynn. Hudson Flynn, can you say what's up to the people?
How we doing, everybody? It's always a good day when I get introduced second. Keith does his intro, guest in the middle, and then I come up last. I love pulling up the rear, running the last leg of the 4x1 is solid. I'm excited to have Kristian on here. I run the Talkin Nets account, and recently we've done a little bit of reshuffling in terms of our news sources. We've switched up what notifications we have on, who we're getting our information from. And one of the most recent additions, I think the most recent into the notification squad for Talkin Nets news that we post is Kristian Winfield. So this is huge. He's basically a celebrity. All of the information from us. We've never broken any news, but Kristian does, and he's great at it. So I'm excited to have him on.
What's going on, man? Thank y'all for having me again. Episode 120. I feel like I need now like a shirt that says 120 with Talkin Nets on it, so I can hang it up in my room somewhere.
We'll get you a Nets jersey with a 120 on it. Talkin Nets on the front though. But yeah, so like Hudson says, usually it's him and I, and he's gonna pull up the rear, and I think we'll keep this cadence for the episode. So I'll bring us through all the topics. I'll say a word or two, maybe give you a couple sentences, but then I'll kick it to Kristian. He'll share his thoughts, and then he'll kick it to Hudson, and Hudson will tie everything back in before we go on to the next subject. So without any more time wasting, let's get right into it. Okay, so the Nets hire Steve Clifford last week. I think we recorded on Tuesday, and then this came out Wednesday morning. My guy Dane is my main friend that I talked to about the Nets, the NBA, and he was the first person to text me. He was like, yo, how do we get this dude? I didn't even know he was available. This is exactly what we need, a defensive hire, this, and that. So, Kristian, starting with you, what were your thoughts when you saw that the Nets went out and hired Steve Clifford to join this coaching staff?
Yeah, it was a sign that the team is moving in the right direction with what they need to do in order to win a championship, right? When you think back to when Steve Nash got hired, who was the first assistant that he tried to hire? Not Mike D'Antoni. He tried to go get Dirk Nowitzki, right? Now he tried to go get his boy first, right? Then he goes to Mike D'Antoni. And now you're saying, okay, they're setting up a coaching staff that has offense as its focal point, right? Now that can't possibly be the case anymore. You bring in a guy like Steve Clifford, who, obviously has a background in Charlotte, in Orlando, putting together strong defensive teams. Defense is what helped them, at least in Charlotte, make the playoffs that once. They underperformed so terribly in Charlotte. It's unfortunate. But in Brooklyn now, I think you combine Steve Clifford with the additions that they make. You bring in a Deandre Bembry, you get a Javon Carter, you bring James Johnson, and you re-sign Bruce Brown, right? You're obviously making that concerted effort to improve yourselves on the defensive end. I think losing Ime Udoka is going to be a hit, right? That's a guy who's going to be over there in Boston trying to coach them up, get them back into the playoffs, and the Nets are going to miss that guy. But I think bringing Steve Clifford in as kind of a consultant to kind of figure out what it is that they should be doing on the defensive end, how they can be better. I think that's going to serve them a lot. And I think we're going to see a little bit more Jacques Vaughn now. Remember, 2 seasons ago in the bubble, Jacques Vaughn was the guy who really was putting that defense together, right? Once Kenny Atkinson left and Jacques Vaughn slid in, the Nets defense improved a little bit. Now I think we're going to see Jacques Vaughn have a little bit more freedom with what he wants to do, when Steve Clifford is going to slide in and ultimately make them a better defensive team as well.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I think one of the biggest points is the fact that we have some holes in the coaching staff. Obviously, Mike D'Antoni left. We thought it was a retirement. We didn't really know what was going to happen. We thought he might have taken a diminished role. He ends up popping up elsewhere in the league. And then obviously Ime Udoka, we're all very happy for him going to the Celtics, even though it's a rival. I'm going to be excited for that first Celtics game. I don't believe it's been announced. I know we play the Phillies our second game, but I'm going to be excited to see him on the bench. But Steve Clifford's an exciting hire because it shows that not only that the Nets are invested in defense, especially along with Sean Marks coming out and saying that the Nets were going to invest in defense, we're going to, make this not necessarily a focal point of the team, but a focal point of the offseason. I'm just excited to see what that's going to bring. And, you never know what you're going to get in terms of a consultant, like what kind of influence he's going to have. But, he's a respected name, and that's something that I'm really excited to see, an impact on the Nets, because the more that these assistants can help, bring the cream to the top and just elevate the team and elevate the whole coaching staff, I think, is going to be huge because, it's a team sport and it's a team coaching staff. And I'm really, really hopeful that this year's coaching staff is going to be what pushes the Nets, a little further than we did last year to the finals, to winning that championship, just because it takes everybody. It takes a village. And when you have injuries, and injuries are going to come, you're going to need other opinions. You're going to need other ideas. And that's what Steve Clifford's going to bring. And it can't hurt, can it?
Yeah, when did coaching consultants become such a big thing, right? I feel like that just came out of nowhere. They're just making up new job titles as they go. I'm like, can I be a consultant? Can I get a consultant check? What's going on?
It's just like a crew thing. It's just like, I want to add these guys to my crew. I can't make them the assistant coach, but I can make them the, developmental coach or the coaching assistant, which brings us to our next topic, Kyle Korver. Kyle Korver joins the Nets as a player development coach. He's a part of the crew now. He's part of the posse now. And everybody knows the copy machine story, right, with the Nets and Kyle Korver and, the money exchange for him going to buy a copy machine. I think it's funny that when his name broke, people thought for a second, wait, did the Nets sign Kyle Korver? So what are you guys thinking about Kyle Korver being a player development coach? We got some guys that he could definitely help, and Cam Thomas, some other young players. So Kyle Korver, I think, is a great addition. I like the story, obviously tying the whole story together from the copy machine to now. And I think he'll be a good guy to have on our staff that played in the league, that's respected. Everybody knows his name, and he can share some insight. Kristian, you're up first. What are your thoughts on Kyle Korver joining the Nets?
Well, I sure as hell can't hear Kristian.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Not sure if that's a unique experience.
Can you hear me now?
Now we got him.
I don't think you're coming.
I muted
in.
myself. This is crazy. Anyway, like I was saying, I had to, as soon as the announcement came out that they hired Kyle Korver, I had to go and look and see if player coaches were still allowed, right? Like, can this guy still come out and play? Because I think the Nets can use a player like Kyle Korver, and if Korver is still have anything left in the tank, he probably want to sign with them. But you can't be a player and a coach anymore. And the copy machine story is funny, right? Because now they traded him, quote unquote, for a copy machine, and now you kind of want him to be that copy machine, right? You want him to turn all these Nets young players into carbon copies of Kyle Korver, someone who could run up and down the floor, hit the spots, and get threes in transition, someone who could run around screens. What kind of impact is Kyle Korver going to have on Joe Harris, right? Joe Harris is a guy who took his game to a level we thought was bulletproof, and then he can't get anything to drop in the postseason. Kyle Korver is a guy who's played under pressure. Can you help him get out of his own head? And then to your point with the shooters, with the young guys, especially a guy like Cam Thomas, if Kyle Korver can get in Cam Thomas's head and show him how to maneuver around screens and find ways to get open, I think he's going to be able to knock down all the open shots he's going to get. If he's playing with any one or two of the big three, he's going to find open looks. And if he's creating those open looks by running off the screens because Kyle Korver taught him how to do so, I think it's going to be a great fit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. If anything, obviously this is his first rodeo in terms of coaching, but I think it's another great pickup. I mean, it's like anytime someone leaves Steve Nash, they find a way to upgrade, right? Like Mike D'Antoni leaves, you go get Steve Clifford. He's a defensive mind. Ime Udoka leaves. Well, now you've got Kyle Korver coming. They just find ways to reshuffle everything. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's going to be important, especially with Cam Thomas's development, as Cam Thomas goes from being the guy who's been the guy, right? High school, he was the guy, led Oak Hill Academy in scoring, still has the scoring record there. College, he was 1A for LSU, 5-star recruit, one and done. He came to the Nets, he rocked in the summer league, and he did his best work when he wasn't, on the same floor as Brandon Knight, who was trying to also be that ball dominant guy. He's going to have to learn to be a secondary, tertiary, even, fourthiary, whatever the word for that is, piece all the way down the line, because we have this wealth of talent on the team. So Kyle Korver is going to be someone I think that can assist with that. And just bringing on professionals, I think we've kind of entered a resurgence of the era of coaching where the importance of that coach having been a player in the NBA and having been a productive player in the NBA is huge. And in terms of gaining respect from your players, it's huge. And in terms of having that mindset, having these specific, relatability with your players to be able to say, especially in Kyle Korver's case, Joe, maybe you're trying to do too much. Maybe you should look for this spot. Maybe you should try and find this one spot off the screen. Maybe, hey, you're going to miss some shots, but I don't want you to put your head down. I want you to have that right mentality because he's been there. He's had that mindset. He's gone through that whole career. And obviously he's got the fax machine chip on his shoulder. So he's going to really be in our players' ears. And, you never know what the role is going to be, like I said, with a consultant, but I hope he's in our players' ears. And, I hope the same way I feel like we haven't talked about Amari Stoudemire when he got hired as a coach. I hope he's in our young players' ears. I think the Nets can kind of, they have the super team on the floor. If they can create this super coaching staff, from the top to the bottom with these really important, really well-seasoned veteran coaches and, former players, I think that's something that can really be an X factor for this team.
Adding on to that, when I got a chance to talk to Deandre Bembry, I asked him, what experience do you have? Well, we know experience that he has, right? He played with Trae Young in Atlanta. He played with what's that man's name? Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Pascal Siakam in Toronto. And you're a guy who's off the ball, right? You're somebody who's going to have to learn how you fit in with these stars. How does that experience help you? Well, Kyle Korver has that experience too, right? He's played with LeBron. He's played on different teams with stars that he's had to learn how to pick and choose his spots. And for a lot of these guys joining this Nets team, I think that's something new that they're going to have to deal with. And that's another thing he's going to be able to help them adjust to as well.
Speaking of playing with LeBron, let's go to a guy that's played against LeBron most famously when he was on the Pacers, Lance Stevenson. Lance will make them dance. Lance Stevenson held a workout in Vegas, and the Nets were one of the teams to attend. And I read an article, I think, on Nets Wire where they said that the Nets might pursue Lance Stevenson. I say, no, I'm good. But I understand he's a Brooklyn guy. I understand he's a Brooklyn boy like Kristian, right? And, bringing the guy home, I understand that too. But this isn't the time for, those homecoming stories, right? We're not signing J.J. Redick so that he can play where his crib is in Brooklyn. We're not signing guys to bring him home. We're signing guys to win a championship. So what do you guys think about Lance Stevenson's chances of being a Brooklyn Net after that workout he just had last week?
They're non-zero, but they're close to zero, I would say. I think at this point, this team would probably rather sign Brandon Knight than Lance Stevenson. And I think that kind of shows you where they are. I think they've got so many different players who can handle the ball, who can make plays for each other. They don't need another guy who's going to come in and try to get in that, right? They need a guy who's just going to be there for depth, who's going to be there to mentor the young guys, because you have a lot of young guys, and who, if somebody goes down, is going to be able to be out there and be steady, right? Lance Stevenson is not steady. I'm sorry. I love you, Lance. You're from Brooklyn. You're my guy. Crushed us in high school. I went to Banneker. He went to Lincoln. He killed us. Jeez, freshman year, came in and dropped, I don't even remember how much. I want to say 40. It was bad. But I do think that if you're looking for fits on this team, you want guys who are going to be stable, steady, and available, especially over the course of an entire regular season. You want guys who can do multiple things out there, especially play defense, especially hit threes. Lance Stevenson hasn't really done either at a high level. He defended okay in Indiana, but it's been too long since we've seen him doing well in the NBA. I know we haven't seen Brandon Knight do very well in the NBA in a long time either, but seeing what he did in Summer League and just having, if I had to compare the two, I think I'd rather be leaning Brandon Knight, and that probably shows you where the Nets probably leaning with Lance Stevenson right now. But you got to do your due diligence, right? You got to look and see if maybe he's okay. So we'll see.
I mean, shoot, when I heard that news, it brought me back all the way back to the bubble when the Nets had all these players ruled out and they were just signing everybody. We had Jamal Crawford for 7 minutes. We had players that were from China. We had like the whole squad. We had the Donta Hall, fight with Giannis. We had fully too much going on. And that was the vibe that I got from that news report. Like the Nets, there's this interesting trend that I've seen with the Nets on social media and the way people talk about them is on one hand, they're the Death Star. It's too powerful. KD's a snake. He brought all these players. Harden forced his way out, and now he's cheating his way to getting a ring. All these things. But on the other hand, it's the Nets they kind of treat the Nets like a meme team that's going to sign everybody. Like the Nets are, the greatest show on earth. So now they're going to bring in all these players. I saw Jared Dudley might be done with the Lakers. So here he comes coming back to a homecoming with the Nets. All these names, and Lance just kind of slides into that pool for me. I really like what the Nets did this offseason. I think that they've certainly made some improvements, and I really appreciate that they went to the draft for those improvements. And I think that's really where you're going to see the impact. At this point in free agency, I think it's going to be a lull, until you see an impact player join the Nets, honestly, up until the trade deadline, because it just seems like the players and the type of players that the Nets want are either not available or too expensive right now. So it might be best to just hold pat, see what we have, and then reassess when we get later. But no, we don't need Lance Stevenson.
All right, so let's move on, fellas. I want to talk Summer League. Summer League Ends is going to be the title of this episode. Kristian was nice enough to join us after the Summer League ended, and that's what everybody's been talking about for the last week and a half. Going a little bit out of order here, but I'll bring it back around. Let's start with news since we're coming from the hiring news. Let's go with the news, right? The Nets rescind their qualifying offer for Reggie Perry. Reggie Perry, y'all all know that's our guy. He came on the show, I think episode 76, back in, I don't even know. It was right before the season started last year. So maybe that was like October or November of last year. Reggie Perry is a Net for now, but what are you guys thinking about what he did in Summer League or what he didn't do in Summer League and his chances of running with the Nets for another year or potentially ending up somewhere else?
I wrote about this a number of times, but Reggie Perry got outplayed by Sharpe almost every game they were out there, and for me, watching Reggie Perry now, it seems like he's kind of like a tweener in a five's body, right? Like you see him out on the perimeter trying to take somebody off the dribble or shooting threes, trying to cross somebody up and get to the rack. But that's not what a lot of these teams need, especially from a player out of that size, especially if you're not going to be efficient in some of those shots. And I think he was 0 of 7 in the season finale or in the Summer League finale. So it's kind of tough. Obviously, he's a second-round pick. And Day'Ron comes in and he's just a monster on the glass, a monster just around the rim, and his underrating passing ability as well. And you could see the impact that he'll be able to make right away almost. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he's able to do. But as it pertains to Reggie, I'm not sure there's a spot on him for this roster, maybe in the G League or maybe on another team. But when you look at how many spots are going to be on this team and you look at who's going to training camp, and he's not taking a spot from Claxton, right? He's not taking Blake Griffin's spot. He's not taking Day'Ron Sharpe's spot. And now it's just a matter of, okay, well, who else is going to fit around in that five? And it's tough. I mean, maybe they keep him, but and on top of that, how do you sign him? Do you sign him to a minimum? You can't give him a two-way because you already use those. So it's going to be tough. I'm not sure we see Reggie Perry on the Nets next year.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too because going into this Summer League, I thought he really had a chance, and obviously with not this year's draft class but the one before, they didn't have that Summer League. Reggie Perry's draft class did not have that Summer League to go out and show what they can do the same way. Cam Thomas, we're all so excited on him. He won Summer League co-MVP. We're going to get there, obviously, but we're all so excited about him. We wouldn't have had that experience last season, so I was really hoping that Reggie Perry was going to come out and have this, resurgence. He's able to bully these smaller guys. Maybe that three that he's so confident about start to fall, but he just didn't have the Summer League that we were all expecting. And again, he's getting outplayed by teenagers. And it's just an unfortunate time for him. I think there's definitely a spot for him in the NBA in terms of the tools you're looking for in the modern NBA player, especially with that tweener body size. I think there is something that he can do in the NBA for some team. Maybe it's the end of a bench of the T-Wolves or something, but there's a spot for him. It's just not with the Nets, and it's a tough situation because since this Summer League has happened, the question marks around our big man rotation are starting to solidify, and we're not really seeing any spots where you could say, okay, let's throw this developmental prospect guy that hasn't really shown us much of anything, but we believe in his potential, we believe in his measurables. There just really isn't that spot on the net. So, I love him. He was a great guest. He was awesome. I mean, I remember he came out, he was enjoying snow for the first time when he came on right before our show. It was phenomenal, but I just don't think his spot's with the Nets. I do think that there is a spot for him somewhere in the league, though. Listen,
he got to play real minutes on a championship contender last year, right? Like, how many players so early into their career get to do that? Success for him. He got to the league. He could have gone undrafted, right? He got to the league, got drafted, made a team, and his career is not over. So I'm looking forward to seeing what is in the cards for him. I just don't think there are any cards to be dealt in New York.
Yeah, you guys mentioned a few things. You mentioned the two-way contracts already being out there. Hudson mentioned that he was getting outplayed by teenagers. I think dude is only 20. He was just a teenager when he came on our show. But let's talk about the boy Kessler Edwards.
Sure.
Pepperdine.
Yeah.
I like what I saw out of that young man, and he earns a two-way contract from the Nets. What are your thoughts on him and what he could be? I know there's a lot of people dreaming about what he could be.
I don't like to try to put undue pressure on these guys so early, especially because it's just Summer League, right? We've seen Summer League MVPs disappear from the league 2 years later. But I do think he has just like prototypical 3-and-D potential. I think he's a guy who can go out there and make some plays for you on both ends of the floor. We saw him play some really good defense a couple different times in summer league, and then we're seeing his abilities as a spot up shooter. He wants to be that guy who can to catch the ball, pump fake on the corner, dribble and dunk on somebody baseline. He wants to do these things. So I'm excited from what I've been able to see from him. I'm not sure if he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to get real minutes on this team. I think he's going to be a guy kind of like last year, how they had the guys in the Stay Ready group going in and out, going back and forth between Long Island and Brooklyn. I think he's going to be one of those guys for sure. But I also think he's going to need to be a guy who's going to be ready when his name is called, because the Nets are always going to need someone on the floor who can play defense and sit in the corner and shoot some threes and run up and down and finish at the rim, right? And if he can be one of those guys and be ready for when his number's called, I think he can maybe be able to get a couple minutes throughout the season. You never know.
Yeah, and when I looked at him on draft night, I saw we took Cam, we took Day'Ron, and then we took Kessler. And out of those three, when I saw Kessler, I said, that's the guy we're looking for in terms of what the Nets really need the most, what Sean Marks can do the most with. Obviously, we love the potential we've seen from Cam Thomas. We love Day'Ron's potential. We love to see how much he's been moving, getting those offensive rebounds. It's crazy. But with Kessler Edwards, you see the prototype of what Nets fans are imagining when we go out and hope for someone in free agency. It seems like we're hoping for a more developed version of a Kessler Edwards, and to be able to get him for free, obviously with the draft you have to pay him, but to not have to expend any cap space really, or to go out and make a trade for a guy like that. It's another piece for Sean Marks to play with, and it's an area on this team that if we can have him develop into a serviceable piece, even if it's just a serviceable piece coming in as an injury replacement in the next couple of years, it's something huge, and we're filling cracks that are going to emerge, right? We saw just how different this team is now from what it was last year, and there's going to be issues that emerge. Players are going to leave, players are going to join, and there's going to be new problems that need to be solved. And Kessler Edwards is a way to say, we're going to stash this guy and know in the future, if we need that guy, if we have an injury, if we have that 3-and-D hole really, really emerge, we can slot this guy in that we've been working on, that we've been hiding, that we've been getting ready for the league. And that's something that's really important for this Nets team to have. And I think Kessler Edwards, as a guy coming from a smaller school, didn't really have the exposure from the WCC. I think he was a steal. I think had he played for a Duke, had he played for a Carolina, had he played for a blue chip, blue blood type school, he would have gone a lot higher. And I really like that pick from Sean Marks, and I love what I saw from him this summer league.
One thing that I think we need to remind folks of is that just because the Nets didn't make a trade on draft day doesn't mean that a trade can't come sometime soon. Rookies are able to be traded 30 days after they sign their contract. And already Cam Thomas's value since he got drafted up, Day'Ron Sharpe's value since he got drafted up, Kessler Edwards' value since he got drafted up, and the Nets have this trade exception that you get from the Spencer Dinwiddie deal. So now you put those three together and maybe one of the guys that you sign, and you can look at a team that's like, hey, we can pull off a trade and get, I don't know, some actual real 3-and-D guy. I don't even want to put a name out there because I don't know who they can get with the money that they have. But what if they go out there and trade for that guy who can come off the bench or even start somewhere? It's that's the beauty of the draft for them, is that, yes, these guys also work down the line. You can build a team around Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Kessler Edwards in 4 to 5 years from now, right? You can expect them to be better, but you can also trade them with a pick or with something for a guy who can help right now. And I think it just gave Sean Marks and the Nets so much more flexibility with what they can do this offseason, into the regular season as well.
I loved it, man. I loved all the conversation around Summer League. I love that Nets fans have some draft picks to watch in Summer League and be excited about, because we haven't had that for a long time. And yeah, of course, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people to try and, bring you back down to reality that, yeah, it is Summer League. Yeah, these guys are 19. Yeah, they did just come out of college. And they came out of college in a year, like you're talking about Kessler Edwards, where, people opted out. COVID season, it wasn't the regular year, but the one thing they said about this draft was that it was deep, that there was a lot of talent in this draft. And Marks we trust is something we always say. Look at what Sean Marks did with those picks when everybody was saying trade the picks. Sean Marks actually used the picks, got Nets fans excited as they've been since I can't even think of the last time we were this excited about a pick. What, Jared Allen, when we made the swap for a Karis LeVert, like when those guys came up, think about how pumped we were for them. Now, if this is a new crop and they're going to get developed with KD, with Kyrie, with James Harden, and KD, Kyrie, and Harden are over 30, and you look at these guys 11, 12 years younger than them, learning from them, that could potentially keep the Nets competitive. It's a good time to be a Nets fan. So before we talk about Cam Thomas, Sharpe, who are like the main guys, obviously Cam Thomas, we got to talk about.
Keith is burying the lead heavy.
I mean, I know all week we've been talking about Cam Thomas on Twitter. That's what everybody's talking about, but I'll get you guys' takes on it. We got to throw some names out there. Sure. Brandon Knight, sure. David Duke Jr., anybody else from Summer League that you saw out there, Alize Johnson, that you watched that either impressed or didn't impress?
I'd say the first player that caught my eye in Summer League was Jordan Bowden. His defense really just unrelenting defense. It was to the point where I had to double check. I was like, hold on, who is that? And I was like, okay. Now, and that's the type of thing that turns heads, right? That's the thing that scouts want to see. That's the thing that agents and other players that are pulling up the Summer League want to see. Who's going to go out there and hustle and grind and try to get that stop? And that was the first thing that caught my eye in Summer League. Other than that, at first I thought, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Quindary Weatherspoon. I thought that was like a carbon copy of TLC, but it actually wasn't. He was just another guy out there who was trying to hoop. I liked how aggressive he was, but I don't think he's going to make at least not the Nets roster. Other than that, I would say, who else was I? I enjoyed watching Day'Ron Sharpe perform for sure. I know we're probably going to get to him later, but just offensive glass machine, man. He's going out there cleaning, rebounding, doing everything out there. Yeah, and Alize, I mean, we know we get from Alize now, right? We know he's going to go out there. I don't think anybody expected him to have a poor Summer League performance. He's going to go out there and outwork everybody. Other than that, I would say those are the guys who caught my eye. Definitely Jordan Bowden. That was one of the guys where I was like, wow, I forgot that he can play this hard on defense. If he can get that 3 to start falling, he might be able to make a roster sometime soon.
Yeah, obviously I like all those names, but the one that Keith mentioned that Kristian didn't was David Duke. And he was a guy that, an undrafted player out of Providence. A lot of mocks had him going in the first round when he arrived at Providence. He was a pretty highly touted player, especially with what he did there. And for the Nets to get him undrafted, I think was huge. I absolutely loved his drive. I loved his work ethic. I loved all the flashes I saw. I loved his ability and willingness to play defense. I loved his ability and willingness to be a role player, even on a summer league team, when you have players like Cam Thomas, who are, 19 years old, trying to go out and be that summer league MVP. He was willing to go out there, even on a summer league team, and be a secondary piece and just be a piece that makes the team better. And now I'm not delusional enough to think that he's going to have an impact on this team this year, but, to bring him to the Long Island Nets, to give him some time down there, I think he's a prospect that the Nets can work on. And like Kristian said, when you draft a pick, when you go to the summer league, you can really accrue some draft stock. You can really accrue some potential there for a future trade. And I know absolutely for a fact that there are teams out there that have David Duke Jr. circled, on their docket and saying, we need to get this guy. If the Nets let him go, if the Nets don't hold on to him, if we can get him from the Nets, we need to get him, because as someone with all that potential and all the drive of an undrafted player, I think he has I'm not going to go be delusional enough to say a great future in the league as a star, but as a role player, I can definitely see him carving out a role. And it's really exciting because it just shows that the Nets scouting department, is not something that everyone talks about with this Nets. They talk about Sean Marks. They talk about the trades we make. They talked about, getting the clean sweep minus DeAndre Jordan in terms of the contracts they were able to give him, re-signing Kevin Durant, all of that great stuff. But the scouting department kind of goes unnoticed. I mean, obviously we had, Rhodey and Musa, who kind of weren't really what we were looking for. But to get Karis LeVert, to get Jared Allen, to get Nick Claxton, all at the, towards the back end of the draft, outside of the lottery, that's huge. And I think that it's great that they're getting their flowers and that this summer league has been a chance to really appreciate, the down the depth chart players in that Nets front office, because it takes a team and everybody out there is doing their work. And it really makes me happy because eventually the big three era will end. But we know that we have players coming up, whether drafted now or drafted in the future, that we can have faith in because we have this great base, this great culture, this great organization that's ready to go for as soon as we need them.
Keith made an excellent point earlier. And I was one of the people who was saying, hey, they should trade the picks, right? If you got 27 and 29, maybe you could package those to 22 or 23 and package that with a pick. And now you can get a player. But I think you definitely get more value out of trading Cam Thomas or a Day'Ron Sharpe than you do from trading 2 unknown picks, right? So I think that's just another part of it. I mean, this is why Sean Marks is a GM and I'm not.
And I mean, these are the Nets. You got guys like Spencer Dinwiddie out there saying the Nets saved my career.
Right.
You got guys like Joe Harris that nobody wanted.
Right.
And with the Nets, he's able to get a 4-year, $75 million contract. You got guys like Jared Allen now, who went out and got $100 million. He got developed by the Nets. I mean, we don't have Kenny anymore, but the Nets are known for developing talent. Karis LeVert, Nick Claxton, and there's more. And now we have 3 of the top 15 NBA superstars that can help mold these young men into NBA superstars. So let's talk about Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe. We'll start with Sharpe first. He's coming out of Roy Williams, UNC, Tar Heels camp. He's coming out with expectations of being great, and he knows he can be great. I think the guy lost some weight. We'll see what our medical team does with him, or our training staff does with him, whether they try and bulk him up or keep him where he is. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be on this team this year, but he is what Nets fans are looking for in a center. He hopefully can take more of a step in his first year than a Reggie Perry did. And, maybe he's catching lobs from Harden at some point later in the season. Maybe he is giving us some minutes. Maybe he is working in with Claxton, dare I say DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin at the 5. What are you guys thinking about the future for Day'Ron Sharpe as potentially the Brooklyn Nets center?
That's an interesting question because I don't think there's a world where Blake Griffin doesn't start at center this season, right? I think we know that they're going to play politics. Blake Griffin is going to be a starting center no matter what. No matter who you bring in, that's what it's going to be. And then after that, I don't think there's a world where Day'Ron Sharpe leapfrogs Nick Claxton in the rotation, right? I think Clax is just this versatile defender who can also knows how to play with the big 3 already. There's less of a learning curve. But I think after that, right, in games where maybe Blake Griffin gets into foul trouble, right, maybe Nick Claxton isn't available, maybe you don't want to play Kevin Durant at the small ball 5, and maybe you're playing against another team that's got that. Maybe you're playing against the Trailblazers and you've got Yusuf Nurkic down low, right? What are you going to do about that? That's a matchup where you go to a Day'Ron Sharpe and say, hey, give it what you got, right? And there's 2 things that stood out for me from Day'Ron Sharpe's game. Number 1 is passing, right? I think he's a much better passer than a lot of people gave him credit for. I saw him. I think he had 3 assists in one game, and he's not playing a lot of minutes either. This is a guy who's playing about less than 20 minutes in some of these games. It's ridiculous. And then second, we asked him about offensive rebounding, and he says, sometimes I'll just run. I'll see the ball go up, and I'll run as fast as I can to the paint. And then he said, not everybody can deal with that. He said, I can do that time and time again. Not everybody can deal with taking that over and over and over again. And when you've got a guy who's got that type of motor and just wants to go out there and crash the glass, that's all really the Nets need. They need a guy who's going to help on the glass and just be someone who can deter a shot on the inside. If he can be both of those things, I don't think he's going to be able to take minutes from Blake Griffin or Nick Claxton, but I think he might be able to create some of his own just because of what he's able to make happen out there.
It's versatility, right? It's team level versatility for the Nets, right? You have Blake Griffin, who brings the veteran presence, who brings the hustle, who brings the ability to shoot the 3. You have Nick Claxton, amazing switch ability, great defense, the ability to play defense 1 through 5, and a developing game down low. And even we've seen flashes of him shooting the 3 a little bit, only a little bit though. But then you have Day'Ron Sharpe, who's coming out, and he is more of that traditional center, but he's got the ability to pass. And look, Enes Kanter, a player that no one really talks about, but always tears up the Nets because the Nets don't really have that guy to stop him. Even if we're talking, bigger, better players, Joel Embiid, a different type of player, it's going to be hard for a Nick Claxton, for a Blake Griffin to match the size and physicality. There is a spot for him on this team because what he does is unique. What his skill set is, at least within the Nets organization, is a unique skill set. And he was drafted for need. Sean Marks saw a need and he took it. And it's a player that he hasn't really drafted before. He's done the tall, skinny, big, right? He did Claxton. He did Jared Allen. But now we have him, and I think that there's going to be a role for him. And, look, we saw last year, we saw the Jazz game. Alize Johnson put up 20 and 20 playing 35 minutes. There's going to be NBA games when the Nets do not have a full team and are going to need to lean on these young players. And Day'Ron Sharpe is someone who came off the bench at Duke, or at UNC, who didn't really get all that many minutes in Summer League. Obviously 20, we were expecting more. and he's going to be fresh. He's going to be ready, and he's going to he's shown throughout his career a willingness to come off of the bench and have a high motor and not need that run-up time that a lot of players do within the game to get in their rhythm. So that's something that's going to be huge for the Nets. And, now and into the future, he's going to be able to carve out a role because we just don't have anybody like him. And that's what I saw from this summer league, and that's what made me excited about, his future with this team and, in the league as a whole.
Agreed 100%.
Okay, now the moment you've all been waiting for on this live streaming podcast. Killer Cam Thomas. What can you say about this guy? He outscored everybody. I think I wrote down a couple things. I think it was 27 points. He averaged 27 points, which was up there. I think is like 6th all time. No, he had 36 points in one game, which was 6th most all time. He averaged 27. He outscored all the big names that you know. He outscored Jalen Suggs. Well, yeah, Jalen Suggs was one of those guys, but Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, like he basically put on to say, okay, I was drafted 27. That don't matter. Watch what I do in this summer league and compare me to whoever you want to compare me. He dropped 36 after like that Spurs game. I was telling people, I'm like, that's the Cam Thomas game right there. That's putting him on the national map. Anybody that is watching basketball or cares about basketball now knows his name after that game. But then he comes out again and drops more points. I'm like, this kid is a walking bucket. He creates his own shot. He's fearless. He wears number 8. Like Kobe came into the league at 18 with number 8. He's got the Mamba mentality. He reps Kobe, and he's going to get to learn from KD, Kyrie, Harden. The guy's co-MVP of the 2021 NBA Summer League with Davion Mitchell. I guess they had to give a player from the Kings co-MVP since the Kings won the whole thing. But go ahead, Kristian, I'll give you some time to just gloat about the Nets' first-round draft pick, Cam Thomas. What are your thoughts on the young man?
That game against the Spurs, it reminded me of Kobe in a way because, I don't know if you've watched those Kobe motivational videos where he talks about his high school and his approach to high school. And he said, basically he made a list of all the players that were ranked ahead of them, and he called them his kill list. And he just check them off one by one. And that game against Josh Primo got drafted, 15 slots ahead of Cam Thomas. Josh Primo went 12th, and Cam went 27th. It just looked like he sought him out and wanted to eat his food every single time that he could. And he did, right? Down the stretch, went at him time and time again, hit big shot after big shot. And then you start to see that it's not a fluke, right? He didn't do this just one game. He didn't do it 2 games. He saved the Nets 3 games in the summer league, right? And it's crazy that a player who is so new to NBA basketball can assume that type of leadership role, but the Nets gave him that role, right? You asked Jordan out about it. He goes, hey, we want Cam to shoot down the stretch. That's understood. We want him. We know that he can make that shot. And for him to be that guy on a team where he's going to learn from other people who are taking that shot, and he's going to learn from Kyrie, from KD, from James, from a Patty Mills. What kind of impact is Patty Mills going to have on Cam Thomas? That's great. And you're getting that influence from everybody. Steve Nash, Kyle Korver, who we just said, Steve Clifford is going to get him right on the defensive end. It's like he's got all the tools to be a complete player because he's already a complete scorer. And that's just, it's incredible that the Nets were able to get him at 27. And I don't know what his role is going to be on this Nets team, right? Because you've got to imagine between James and Kyrie and Patty, a lot of those backcourt minutes are going to go, and then you're probably going to want another defender in that backcourt at some point. But if he's able to get on the floor and score the way he was able to score in Summer League, and it doesn't look like there's any issue in him doing that, I mean, sky's the limit for that kid. Does Sean Marks miss anymore? I don't know. I mean, he missed on Musa. We'll call a spade a spade. Right? Musa's out the league, but it seems like he doesn't miss, man. It's ridiculous.
He made up for Musa though because he got us Bruce Brown.
Right, he did. Okay, that's fair. That is fair. And he kept Bruce Brown too.
I mean, I think Sean Marks is proving that there is a fundamental flaw in the NBA draft process, right? Sure. And it brought me back, strangely enough, and Kristian, Keith, tell me if you follow me on this. It brought me back to Jared Allen. Why did Jared Allen fall to the Nets? He fell to the Nets because people thought around the league that he was not committed to basketball, that he had other things going on, that he liked to build computers, he liked to play video games, this and that. This commitment level. The Nets were able to get him, and look at him now, $100 million player. Right. Cam Thomas, reports are coming out, he fell because people thought he was too arrogant, that his confidence was too much. He was too high. He couldn't be a team player. He was just, he thought he was all that, and he couldn't back it up. He falls to the Nets and he shows that, confidence breeding on arrogance is a positive. It's a plus. He said, I do that. He said, this is what I do, right? That he's that guy. And look, obviously he's not going to be that level of that guy on this Nets team with just so many players who are undisputed in the history of the game, that guy. But to be able to learn from them, to be able to grow from them, it's a really interesting situation that he's fallen into because he's not on a team where he's going to be able to make that immediate impact. Imagine if he was on the T-Wolves, right? Going out every night. He might have won Rookie of the Year. He might win Rookie of the Year if he's on the Timberwolves, just dropping points with reckless abandon. But he's with the Nets, and with that comes the reality that he might not get the amount of minutes that he thinks he deserves, that he thinks he should get, that he wants to get. But he gets that development. He gets that learning. He gets to learn from Kyrie. He gets to learn from James Harden. And, the one part of his game that really stuck out to me was throughout the summer league in the games he played, he averaged 4.25 free throws made per game.
Mm-hmm.
Per game. That makes me think James Harden, number one, and Kyrie, number two. And to be able to get to the line like that is huge. And to have that, body control in the air that you can develop, that Kyrie and Harden can obviously show him the ropes in, is going to be massive for his development. And if there is a world where he gets minutes with the Nets, second team, whether it's Harden leading the second team and he's out there at shooting guard, the world is going to be his because he has the confidence to shoot. He has the confidence to drive. He has the ability to get to the line. And, pairing that with a playmaker like James Harden, it's got to be, his dream. So if we can make that happen, if the coaching staff, if the organization can get, in, whoever's ear needs to be in and say, put him out there with James Harden, it might be special. It might be something special. And I know that's what Nets fans want. I know that at the beginning, in the first 15 games of the season, the Nets are going to lose a game, and it might be by double digits. And someone is going to start a chant in the Barclays Center, and it's going to be going around all on Twitter. Where's Cam Thomas? Where's Cam Thomas? Get him in there. And I don't think they're going to be wrong because he's shown in a small sample size in the summer league that he can do things in the NBA that are really crucial to being a consistent player on the floor. And man, I'm just so excited for him because to have a player like that drafted on a team that really could have gone and ran out a summer league roster, Brandon Knight's 1 through 5, it's just such a great feeling, and it just shows the signs of a healthy, great organization. And I'm just so happy to be a part of it, to be talking about it.
How many rookies do you think wish slipped to 27 or 29 now, right? Like,
right. Think about that. Imagine being 28. Who got taken 28? I forget.
Now.
Ooh, that's
in between our pick, man, I don't remember. We were live for it. I don't remember. But didn't we have 27 and 29, and then
2021, 28th overall pick?
Look for that. But I'll say my piece on Cam Thomas. I don't understand how people could look at a 19-year-old kid and say he's too cocky. I want a confident young man like that on my team. I want a kid coming in saying, I get buckets. They know what I do. And then coming through in the clutch. We already know he's got the clutch gene. It takes guys years to develop the clutch gene. We just watched Joe Harris not be clutch at all. I want the clutch guys. I want the guys that relish the big moment.
My man hit the one-footed floater fadeaway side to the shot, 3-point winner, sudden death.
I couldn't believe it. I jumped out of my chair. I was like, oh, nah. I had no – and that's just crazy. He did it, and then he said he practices that shot. You know
I bet he's in the gym practicing every shot on the court. And like, last thing about him is he's 19. Yeah, Hudson is 19, right?
Crazy.
You're out here trying to make me feel bad about myself.
No,
I should be in the league. I should be dropping 27 in the summer league.
Imagine the confidence it takes him to go out and do what he's doing. You're a confident guy. You're a smart guy. You built Talkin Nets with me. You're 19. I'm 33. I'm sure there's some things you've taken from me. There's some things that I've given to you and I've watched you run with, and I'm proud. Now, you put a 19-year-old kid like Cam Thomas with a 33-year-old KD, a 31-year-old Harden, 30-year-old Kyrie. Come on. They are going to make this young man better. They're going to get the best out of him, and they're going to find a role for him on this team. And then in a couple years, if he's a trade piece, he's a trade piece. Or in a couple years, it's like, hey, man, these guys are getting up there in age. They're kind of washed. But Cam Thomas is walking into his prime. That boy is crazy. Like, I'm happy because we're going to be doing Talkin Nets through all of this, through all of these years. And I can't wait to see what happens with Cam Thomas. And I just love that he put on in the summer league like that. and everybody is on notice now. The Nets, the rich get richer. The Nets are the rich that just got richer.
I see the headline now. Cam Thomas carries Big Three to championship. Right.
That's what he's hoping. That's what he's dreaming. That's a confident guy.
That'd be crazy.
All right, moving on from the summer league talk, we got to wrap up in like the next 10 minutes. Kyrie Irving, going back, because we didn't talk about this on the last episode, because I'm pretty sure the more than a run in West Orange that he threw happened the night that we recorded. So Kyrie Irving hosts More Than a Run in West Orange, New Jersey. I don't know if you guys saw. You most likely saw if you're a Nets fan, NBA fan. Kyrie stands out here. Travis Scott was there. It was just an open run. They're hooping, playing basketball in West Orange, New Jersey. I don't know if you guys ever been to West Orange. I'm a Jersey guy. This is amazing for Kyrie Irving to do something like this, where Travis Scott pulls up and a bunch of other people pull up to support. And I think it was either free or cheap to enter, because I saw a lot of fan videos of people that were in there. So what are you guys thinking about Kyrie? Again, we support Kyrie over here, and Kyrie continues to just quietly do things for the community, not looking for any notoriety. The Brooklyn Nets covered it, but for the most part, it wasn't, on ESPN. They weren't on the jump talking about what Kyrie was doing.
Yeah, those are two constants that have been, I guess we'll say they've been constant since Kyrie got here, right? Number one, he said, yes, I play for the Brooklyn Nets, but I'm a New Jersey Nets fan all the way through. He claims New Jersey no matter what. And then second, just, I'll tell you a story. There's one time he's in a media scrum, and it's a bunch of different reporters around, and it's this woman is trying to ask him a question, right? And you guys probably saw the video went viral not too long after. This woman's trying to ask him a question, and this guy, and a report, the scrum is kind of like, you got to get in where you fit in. Guys are jockeying over each other. Everybody's talking over each other, and everyone keeps talking over this lady. And Kyrie interrupts the next guy who speaks. He goes, "Hey, you can get your question off, but this lady she's got a question. She can ask it next." And it was just like, that's kind of just a glimpse into what type of person he is. I know he gets a bad rap for quote unquote being a bad teammate, which none of his teammates can actually confirm, right? Whenever you ask teammates about this, say, hey, we love playing with Kyrie, right? So he gets a bad rap for a lot of these things, but look at what he did overseas, helping bring fresh water to different countries. Look at what he's doing here. When the pandemic was at its height, he was helping donate masks and all types of supplies to everybody. It was crazy. So yeah, Kyrie is just, and that's one of the reasons why I somebody asked me this not too long ago. Like, hey, how long do you think Kyrie is going to play for? And I was like, that's an interesting question, because if he signs another deal, that's 5 years, right? That's 4 years on top of the one that he has left on his deal will be 5. I think that's a long time for a guy like him who wants to actually go out into the community, into the world, and make a change, So it's just nothing different from him, man. He's just a really good dude, really genuine guy. And I just love seeing the things that he's doing in the community, because it's what we want to see. You would hope that what he does is going to inspire other athletes to now go back to their hometowns and do these things. And I think we're starting to see some of that also as well.
I mean, Kyrie's that guy, right? Like, he has been, since he came to the Nets, he's been, I think, my favorite Net. He dethroned Spencer Dinwiddie, who I loved during the 2018 run and everything. But Kyrie, he's the model, in my opinion, of what the future of, the outspoken activist / athlete is going to be, right? In terms of the star, there's so many people that do so many good things that aren't stars, but in terms of the star, in terms of someone who gets all this coverage, in terms of someone who's so polarizing, to be able to go out there and do these things in his community, but also back it up with his game, so people can't say anything about that. It's just, I think it's the way that things are moving. I think it's kind of the way that the world is moving. And I'm so glad that Kyrie's at the forefront of it, because he's just that guy. And he really just does have this right energy for Brooklyn. He's gotten, a bad rap over the years. He's, people say bad things about him. He's not that guy. He couldn't hack it. You hear a lot of people say, oh, you can't hack it in Manhattan, go to Brooklyn. Kyrie is that guy with all that hate, and he's going out there and making a difference and making moves on the basketball court is just phenomenal. And I hope he retires as a Net. I'd like to think that he will, so that we can retire his jersey and so that he can remain a fixture in this Brooklyn Nets community and in this Brooklyn and this Jersey community. It's something that I think would really be special for this organization, who now has these 3 iconic players on their team, to have a hometown, kind of iconic player is something special that most teams don't have and can't even ask for, can't even wish for. And we have it in Kyrie Irving. And so just to everybody, all the Kyrie haters, just try to appreciate him, just try to do what you can to appreciate him, because it's greatness on and off the court. And man, it just makes me so happy to be a Nets fan.
I do think that the Nets will end up retiring his jersey. I think Cleveland obviously gave him his start, and then he had that 2-year stint in Boston. He won a championship in Cleveland. But I think if the Nets win here and it's able to just be a peaceful coexistence between their stars, I think they're going to retire his jersey.
Yeah, I'll say this before we move on. With Kyrie, who knows? We can't predict. Kyrie. He thinks and does what he wants to do, and I support that. Whether he signs an extension or not, like, I know he's going to just do good. I know he's going to play good basketball or do good things in the community. Man, when he went down in game 4, I was live. We were doing a live, and someone was asking me, who's your favorite player? I always wear Kyrie's jersey. I have 3 Kyrie jerseys. And then when he went down, that's when scary hours hit for me. I was like, okay, now we're in a little different thing going on here without Kyrie. Like, now we're in a different series without Kyrie. And then, 2 things I watched today. I watched Draymond and KD with chips, right? I just want Kyrie to get a chip, and then he could do whatever he wants. If he doesn't want to play basketball anymore, but he gets 1 chip as a net, good. Draymond and KD were on chips, talking about the chip on your shoulder. You guys should go check that out. It's on Bleacher Report. But Draymond asked him about all the Kyrie stuff and what goes on in the locker room, and KD kind of spun it and basically said, the same stuff went on with us, or not the same stuff, but basically said, we don't care inside our building, right? People make a big deal outside of the building everywhere else about Kyrie, but we know what's going on with Kai, and in the building, that don't bother us. And he said the same way Clay would miss practice, nobody cared. I didn't know that Clay was missing practices, but see, like, it's just a different level between, fans of the NBA, which KD always says, I don't know if y'all even like the NBA. Some people just like to bash NBA players, and I think, like, this world changed in 2020. I think perception of Kyrie is changing a little bit, and we needed him in that series against the Bucks. Drew Holiday was just on the old man in the 3, which I watched today, and he said once Kyrie went down, we knew, KD had to beat us, and KD damn near beat us. They locked in on Landry Shamet and shutting down, other guys, because they knew it would just be KD out there on his own. Next season, it's not going to be KD out there on his own. So let's move on. Speaking of KD, we got 2 more things to talk about. Evan Fournier, you a lame. That was an unprovoked shot. He took an unprovoked shot at KD on Twitter the other day, right? He's in New York.
Can you imagine being Evan Fournier and taking an unprovoked shot at Kevin Durant?
No, I don't even want to ever be Evan Fournier. I hated Evan Fournier on the Magic. I hated Evan Fournier on the Celtics. I already can't stand his ass as a Knick. He's in New York trying to find a barbershop. Bro, are you clueless? First off, start with your teammates. Start with people in the building. They can point you in the right direction. You don't got to get on Twitter. And then in your Twitter thread, you take a shot at KD. And it's like, for what, bro? You are going to have to see us. Like, you're literally going to have to play us 4 times next year and get swept. And KD was about to smack your ass in the playoffs. Like, why would you take that shot? You just got smacked in the Olympics. Like, why? Like, I just don't understand why Evan Fournier needs to do that. But he's looking for attention, right? He's out there, hey, I'll go on anyone's podcast. Anybody looking for podcast guests? I just want to say, Evan Fournier, you're a lame. You guys can add your thoughts before we hit the last 2 topics.
I just think he had some, I'm seeing still a little salty from the Olympics, right? Still probably a little mad that his team didn't pull it out. But, I mean, Knicks fans are going to be mad now because KD's going to try to drop 50 on Evan Fournier every single time they match up. So didn't do himself any favors. I tried to tell him where to go to get a haircut. My guy near Barclays at Levels Barbershop, really dope. But he can't really take too much of a shot at KD because his fade this season was looking crazy. I took a screenshot.
He's got bro. And he wears some goofy ass shoes. I hate his game. Like, I just can't stand Evan Fournier.
My man is an NBA basketball player and like one that's getting paid. Like, he's gonna get minutes for the Knicks. And I have never seen a goofier looking dude. Like, I like when he put on, like, what's he wear? Like 94? What's his jersey? 96? Like, what the audacity of this man to think he has any drip. Like, it's comical. Like, and to go after Kevin Durant. I talked about confidence breeding on arrogance before. That's straight up arrogance. If you think that it's in any way, shape, or form a good idea to go after Kevin Durant on social media, you're delusional. You're fully delusional, and someone's got to put you in a hospital.
I cannot wait until we have Knicks versus Nets. I put out on Twitter that my sister made the Knicks dance team. So I'll be at some MSG Knicks games.
That's fire.
Yeah, she was a Laker girl for 2 years, came back home, took a year off, tried out for the Knicks dancers team and made it. So I guess I have to go.
Bro. I know a couple dancers that just are pouring their hearts out, talking about, yo, it's tough. So I know it's not easy.
It's a grind. I might have to connect with you offline to see who's there, make sure my sister's straight. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm looking forward to going to MSG because I haven't been to a game there in a while. I think the last game I saw there was Duke when Zion and RJ were playing for Duke. But the NBA released some of the schedule this week, and we've got the Nets opening up in Milwaukee. I have never been inside the arena, but I did get to go outside of the area over there, the Deer District. So we'll be there October 19th. Then the Nets go to the Wells Fargo Center in Philly on October 22nd. And I think Friday, more information will come out about the schedule. But we do know that the Nets and Lakers will play on Christmas. And, we were on TV a bunch last year. It's new territory for us Nets fans. We're going to be on national television. We're going to be in the marquee games. We're going to play on Christmas. We're going to probably play on Martin Luther King Day, whatever it is. So what are you guys thinking about what you've seen from the schedule so far with us? I would have liked to be at the Barclays Center, and we'll speak on the Barclays Center in a minute. But what do you guys think about the little bit that you've seen from the schedule release?
Can't wait for the preseason opener against the Lakers out in LA.
Preseason.
That's going to be a lot of fun. They're having training camp at San Diego, so I'm going to be out there first, and then we just hop on the flight on down. I don't even know if I might drive down. It's going to be great. And I think the games that we've seen so far, I had a couple people, I tweeted this earlier. I said, hey, it's a good measuring stick matchup. And someone was like, oh, what's a measuring stick game? No, you need to know where your team ranks up against the teams you're going to have to go through to win a championship, right? And if your first game is against the Lakers and the Lakers come out and blow you out in that preseason game, then you got some work to do. If you have the season opener against the Bucks and the same Bucks team that you thought you were supposed to beat handily, if you were healthy, comes out and spanks you in that first game by 15, 20, you got work to do. So I'm looking at these games. I like the Philly matchup. I can't wait to go there because I want to see how they match up against an Embiid, right? What are they going to do? How's that defense going to work when they got to send that double and now they got to scramble around the court because Embiid's going to make the right pass and now the three-point line is open. I want to see how all that stuff works out. So I'm excited. I need to start hitting up some league sources. I want to find out when these Knicks Nets games are. But other than that, man, I can't wait. The season's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I think the Nets are gonna give us 60. If we play 82 games, I think they can go for 60 wins this year.
60 wins. I like the sound of it.
Man, at least
who's gonna beat them? Who's 22? I mean, unless they beat themselves like we saw them last year, who's going to beat them?
We're the favorites.
Tough, man.
Maybe we get 65 wins. Maybe
he said we're the favorites. 70. We're not. First game of the season, the bettors, the money line is not in the Nets' favor. The Nets are actually plus 1.5, and I know the Nets are actually the team itself is actually trying to partner right now with some sports betting, services. I'm not too much of a gambler, but if there was ever a bet I'd throw my life savings behind, I don't know. The Nets looking for revenge, a fully healthy team, a full offseason to rest up. KD's hot from the Olympics still. I don't know, man. Maybe a championship hangover goes into effect.
Second-year coach, rookie coach.
I think you might want to put some money on that game if you're a Nets fan. If you're an NBA fan, if you're a betting fan, put some money on that game. That feels like an easy win.
Weird. In the Bucks series, I was saying that every time. Like I used to gamble. I don't gamble anymore because that's just throwing your money away most of the time. But I was looking at the spreads from the over and under to the spreads of points. And I think game 3, I was like, who do they think is playing? Like, I don't know. Sometimes those are off, but yeah, we'll see. I can't wait. This next 2 months is going to fly by, and we'll be right back in the NBA season. We'll also be right back in the Barclays Center. And the Barclays Center announced that you have to be fully vaccinated to get in there. So it is August 18th. Season starts October 19th. there's definitely some Nets fans that are like, all right, I got to get on that. I got to get these 2 shots or whatever it is in the next 2 months so I could go to the games. Here's my thoughts. Before we close, I'll get you guys' thoughts and we'll wrap this thing up. I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm not putting that information out there as like a flex or to like, it just doesn't matter to me. I did it in March, but I did it because I work in sports. I work in the media. I knew if I was going to be in Yankee Stadium for opening day, like I saw all the other reporters and people that do what I do that cover the game got vaccinated in spring training. So I got that out of the way. But I understand people have, the right to choose. And I understand that this is a political thing and whatever. My only issue with this is that they said, okay, 2 things, my 2 issues. They said, we've spoken to our fans and our fans want the place to be fully vaccinated. I didn't get a poll or like an email saying to vote on this. I don't think the fans are the ones that said we rather be in a fully vaccinated environment, because you guys remember the playoffs had vaccinated section, unvaccinated sections. But the biggest thing for me last year, bro, I was entering the Barclays Center in a vaccinated like entrance line. Then once I get in there, they're yelling, "Put your mask on. Hey, you get your mask up. Keep your mask up." And I'm like, showing them my card, like, yo, I'm vaccinated. I'm good. I'm in a vaccinated seat. I have to have my mask on to go to the bathroom. Like, what are we doing? And so when they announced this vaccination thing, they also said that you have to wear the mask. And I'm like, no, if the Barclays Center is fully vaccinated, I'm not bringing a mask. Sorry. I'm done with that.
It's tough, man. It's so tough. And I was telling you guys earlier, my mother going on 65 years old tested positive for COVID a couple days ago, and it's tough, especially with older people. I know at Barclays, we get fans of all different ages. We get young fans, we get older fans. We get fans the same age as Mr. Whammy. You know what I'm saying? So it gets tough. And if being vaccinated is what it's going to take to kind of like, deter the spread of this thing, then everybody needs to go do that. Now, obviously, the whole mask situation, if you're wearing a mask and you're vaccinated, if everybody in the building is vaccinated, and on top of that, everybody on the building is testing negative, even though I don't know why you would test and give, I don't know. There's a lot of crazy stuff. I don't even know how all this stuff works, but like the mask can be kind of restricting. So I get it. But at the same time, you got to understand there's people who are smarter than all of us telling us this is what we need to do. So maybe there's something we don't know about this whole situation. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about all this, man. So I'm just urging everybody to get vaccinated, stay safe, you know what I'm saying, and do it to protect the other ones that you love, because you never know, man. You find out that your mom is COVID positive one morning, you don't know how that rocks your world, So yeah, do what you got to do to help everybody else.
Again, sorry to hear that, and prayers up for your mom. Hopefully she fights through it. I got that same type of message over the summer with my grandparents that are, in their 70s, and it rocked me, because the first thing you think is, oh no, but they were able to fight it and get through it. And I think at this point now they know how to treat it and what to do. So hopefully we're good. Hudson, any closing thoughts on the Barclays Center vaccination, mask, anything?
I mean, the Nets are putting their money where their mouth is, right? They're giving away free tickets to people that get vaccinated at the Nets vaccination center. So, whether it's a philanthropic effort or they know where the money is, because I do think it's both. I think that the money is with full stadiums, and you can't have full stadiums if you're not going to be fully vaccinated. Like we saw that in the playoffs. The Nets know what they know. They got a lot of smart people on it, like Kristian said. And look, just, I don't know, get vaccinated. It's really not that big of a deal. I don't know why it's turned into such a big thing. Like, it's a lot of dummies out there. I don't know. Just get vaccinated. It's so easy.
It's simple. It's free. It's available, and it'll save you a lot of trouble and a lot of headaches down the line. So get vaccinated, subscribe to the pod, rate us 5 stars, and write a review.
In that order.
We got to start firing the reviews up. If you like Kristian Winfield on the show, write a review and say Kristian came through and held it down. I follow him on Twitter. He's the
Listen,
GOAT.
I'm going to write that review under my own name. I'm going to write a review and be like, I enjoy Kristian. Let's have that guy on more often. I'm going to do that 7 times under 7 different names. I got email addresses.
Hey, make sure you follow Kristian. It's Chris Splashed, right? It's at Chris Splashed. I don't know how to spell it off the top. I think it's KRIS into the splash. PLASHED.
Yep.
You can follow us at Talkin Nets. You know that. You can follow me at Keith McPherson Hudson Flynn. Where can they follow you?
They could follow me at Hudson, but follow Kristian. That's a dope Twitter handle. Like
Get him
I
over
think
20K.
people,
Get him over 20K.
I think people gotta get on the cool Twitter handles. Like if you're even though you're verified, doesn't mean you can't have like a cool handle. I like that. That's dope.
Funny? The funny part is I tried to just do Kristian Winfield, but number one, you can only have 15 characters, and that would have been 16. Number two, I was looking for Chris Winfield and it was taken by a bot, and they weren't trying to let me have it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going with my nickname, and that was that.
Yeah, I was able to get Keith_McPherson, and I leave Keith. I used to have like at Keith McPherson for my Instagram. Well, I still have it, but I used to have it in my bio so that people would click on it and see like there's a bot with my full name, and like, I can't get that account. But either way, call the voicemail. No voicemails today because we had a guest. But if you want to call in about anything you heard on the show or something you want to talk about next week, it's 201-870-0461. And that's all we've got. Hit the shop.johnboymedia.com. Get you some Talkin Nets merch. And we will be back in a week. Sorry for the 1 day delay, but we had a special guest that we wanted to get on and talk through the Nets stuff with you. So that's all we've got. We're signing off. Let's go Nets. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. All right, bet. Yo, appreciate y'all for having me on.
No doubt, no doubt. We'll end this